Good morning. I heard a funny thing to start out a speech with this morning or this week, and it's not true, but I think you've enjoyed it as much as I do, hopefully. Did you know there's been the research put out, not truly, but yes, every third person is either remarkably beautiful or completely handsome. So if you take a minute, look to the person to your right, then, look that right, and then look at the person to the other side on your left, and since it wasn't either of those, you know who it must have been. That's from Zig Ziglar. He's one of my heroes. Let's start with prayer. If you would bow your heads with me. Father in heaven, I want to ask that you be here, that your Spirit would be here, and that you would lead in the stories that I have to share and the message that I have to share. In Jesus' name, amen. I pulled this, I was going to talk about Lazarus, and then I said, well, that's not about education. So I went and found another sermon on education, and the other one, anyways. And so there's some good things in here I want you to think about. And the title of it was, I gave her a title, and I think it got lost in translation between us there. Adventist Education, Challenging the Myths, or the Myths of Challenge of Adventist Education. There are some myths. And I just want to, the main idea is that unless, the main verse I have is Psalms 127, verse 1. Unless the Lord builds the house, the work of the builders is wasted. Unless the Lord protects the city, guarding it with sentries will do no good. Some time ago, there was a study done in the New York conference. They conducted a survey to see the feasibility of opening a new Adventist academy on, bear with me, this is in Nassau County, and I'm going to need my thing. It was on Long Island where they were going to open this academy. And so they sent out a feasibility survey to all of the churches that were in that county that would be supporting that academy. And one of the responses came back like this. Survey was, how many children do you have in each of the following groups? In grades 1 to 8, they had 1. In groups 9 to 12, they had 2. So a good match for a high school or academy. Please indicate the total number of students in each of the following categories. A, number of students in Adventist schools, 0. Number of students in public school, 3. How many children would you send to an Adventist academy in Nassau County? None. What is the likelihood that you may be moving from this general area within the next 5 years? A very good question, assuming that they're not going to send their kids, right? Unlikely to move was the response. What is your family income range? $55,000 to $80,000. And would you be willing to financially support the development of an Adventist academy on Long Island? Their response was no, not interested. Number 7, please provide an input for you feel would be useful for members of the feasibility study committee. Comments. They're sad, just saying. They're sad. I'm just pausing for effect here. The education given in Adventist schools is limited and often of poor quality. They need better trained teachers, more equipped facilities. The public schools provide a more comprehensive education, and my children will be better prepared to face the future and the real world. While I agree that religion is important, I believe that it should be taught by the parents and the church. God bless. Wow, challenging the myth. Several myths put in there. Back to our verse, Psalms 127:1. If the Lord doesn't build the house, if the Lord doesn't build the church, doesn't build the school, then what we do in it is in vain, I think. Myth number 1, education given in Adventist schools is very poor. The facts are, I was trying to look for some actual hard facts and like a graph or something for how much that is put into Adventist education every year. It's millions. It's a lot of money. We're supporting about 5,000 schools worldwide. And at the same time, there's a free education in public schools. So one could conclude that the individuals who study in these schools, Adventist schools, or public schools, and the ones who pay for students to attend their Adventist schools, got confused there a little bit, sorry, are satisfied with what they're getting back from that. Here are some of the facts, though, the Adventist schools face. Oftentimes being small, which I don't think that is a problem. I think that's sometimes a blessing. I've worked in a large school now, and I've worked in small schools, and there's something to be said for a small school. There's a family atmosphere that you can lose as the school gets bigger and it gets more commercialized, I suppose. But the small school is just a pleasant and lovely place for a child to grow and develop, and have somebody like a mother goose like my wife is right there, and taking care of the children. It's so wonderful. Multi-grade classrooms could be considered by people who are used to seeing single-grade classrooms as a negative thing, but it's very positive. Students in the multi-grade classrooms are able to learn from their peers that are older than them and already taken the subject. And those that are older, they get to solidify their learning of things because they're sharing it. I've seen that over and over. And, oops, I skipped a few. Low budget, well, we know that. We're always struggling with our budgets, it would seem. Sometimes we have good years. Lack of adequate facilities, maybe, but I don't know if that's the most important thing. High cost of Christian education. It's true. It's expensive to pay people. And I guess one of my beefs, I have been in administrative role too, and it's just so frustrating when you know that as a house homeowner, you're paying for public school, but you're not reaping any of the benefits really from that. Whereas in private school, we pay for that right out of our pocket. But there's lots of help. We just collected money for that today. So the conclusion drawn on that particular one would be skipped a little bit here. There's a result. There was a, does this result in inferior education if we have all those things? Ellen G. White says that true education is the harmonious development of mental, physical, and spiritual powers. There was also, some time ago, there was some comparative studies done between the level of education in Adventist schools and in public schools. And I'll state them to you here: the Stanley Chase research, the Jerome Thayer research, the Dennis Milburn, and the Bonnie E. Ford study. In every one of the studies, students came out at the same level or above for a public education. And I don't think I think this guy's maybe there are a few that'll come below, but the majority come above. And when they have done the research on that, even more is that the longer a student is in Adventist education, each year it gets more because they're building on being ahead already, and it gets them further ahead every year. Myth number 2, they need to be better teachers. No wonder teachers want to leave education. I just don't know. That might have something to do with it. I don't know. It was reported once in the news that a chamber, here we go. I don't know why they put this. Okay, this is a good story. Just bear with me. I tried to make it G. That a body of a young man was lying in a bed of a hotel room was found there. He was dead with a lethal bullet wound. On the dresser, she found his last will and testament written on a sheet of the hotel's letterhead, and it read this: I leave to society a bad example. I leave to my friends the memory of a misspent life. I leave to my father and mother all the sorrow they can bear in their old age. I leave to my wife a broken heart, and to my children the name of a drunkard and a suicide. I leave to God a lost soul who has insulted his mercy. Proverbs 22:6 says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not what? He will not depart from it. So I wanted to share that this is, I think some people think that when they send their kids to public school, they're not getting trained. But when I was in college, I took a course on my worldview, and I was taught by this little old lady, and I saw her get up front, and she had that little lady perm, and her hair was thinning, and she had glasses on with a chain. And I looked at her and I thought, man, I'm not going to get a lot out of this class. And then the first presentation she did was 5 men that rule the world from the grave, and my life was turned upside down. It was like, whoa. And during that class, we talked about evolution. And is evolution a religion? Yes, it is. It tells you where you come from, tells you what you're going to do in the middle, tells you where you're going to go when you die. Adventist education, we get to talk about that as a theory, and if you, just like in the public school, they can't teach anything about God. We can't read the Bible. You can't pray. You can't encourage a student that way unless you're wanting to challenge your job, and that's okay. But you can teach evolution, and you can teach all about being a lesbian or a furry. You can teach all those things, but you can't teach about God. So are they being taught well in a public school? I don't know. In my opinion, they're not. It doesn't mean it's going to affect every student, and doesn't mean every student some students aren't going to succeed there. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying that when my son asked if he could go to high school, at school where we were at before, it was one of the only times I said, no, absolutely not. This is not a discussion. Happy to discuss many other things, but that was not one of them. It just wasn't something I was going to be okay with. And I say we were probably happier than ever because of where we sent him. It was like 2 weeks in, and he's like, hey, Mom, I was such a spoiled brat at home. It's just like, what? I was expecting that in 3 years, not 2 weeks. Oh, my goodness. This man they found in that hotel room, obviously, a young man's spiritual dimension was not developed. It wasn't taught at home, wasn't taught at the church, wasn't taught in school. He was unable to understand that God loved him unconditionally. And that no matter what the problem was that was coming before him, there was a way of escape. And that if he confessed to God to forgive him, that God would never have left him. Never, never. He's always with us, right? A challenge to our educators. Ellen G. White says that the true education is to restore man in the image of his maker. Isn't that a good thing? And I even struggle with it. I feel like in our Adventist schools, the devil is so prevalent and preying on our children and our teachers, because that is exactly what he doesn't want, because that's how he loses. Every person that gets created and recreated in the image of his maker is one more soul that Satan doesn't get to take. And man, to be an Ivy League graduate, Ellen G. White says that's the most important thing. And it's not to be an Ivy League graduate. I mean, that can be celebrated. That's important, yeah. But it's also not to be a math genius. That's not what's most important in education, although we need math geniuses. And it's not the most important thing to be a rocket scientist, although we need those too. And not to be a computer wizard. Well, we need those too. But the most important thing is to restore in man the image of his maker. Luke 15 provides meaningful metaphor of the role of the Christian teacher. In this chapter, we find several parables. Just walk through them with me. The parable of the lost sheep. You know that one, right? The parable of the lost coin. The parable of the lost son, or the prodigal son. And the coin, parable of the lost coin. So the sheep knows that it was lost, but it can't find its way back. The shepherd had to go find him. The coin knows it's lost, but if a coin had a sense of intellect, but it has no idea that it's lost. The coin is lost, but because it has no intellect, it doesn't know it's lost, right? Sorry about that. And the son believes he is lost, but thinks he's doing the right thing in being lost. That kind of covers all of humanity there a little bit, doesn't it? The vocation of the Christian educator is to do like the master educator, to seek, to save that which was lost. So through Christian teaching, our guiding, our mentoring, man, I don't know very many teachers in Adventist education that don't care. They all care a lot. know, second here. There are many times when I will have a sleepless night. Oftentimes it's just because of one student, but sometimes it's a whole class, and we'll pray for those students and for their... Sorry, I didn't mean to get all teary up. We'll pray for them. I'll pray for them just until I fall asleep. Because I don't... Ooh, okay, got it. I had a superintendent once, he goes, that's okay, it's just it's puberty. You're getting tired of. When there have been whole classrooms, several, it'll be friend groups who are struggling with being kind to one another or to their peers outside of their friend group. And I just pray, I don't think that that I am equipped as a person or even that great of a teacher to be able to reach them. I have that where they need to be met. And oftentimes after I pray, I always have a better day the next day, which is really nice. So, students who are lost and they don't even know they're lost oftentimes. Those are the ones we end up praying for, I think, because they're doing things that I don't think they even realize the damage that they're causing, and they don't even know that it's something they shouldn't do. And sometimes I had a class where they thought it was okay to lie. I had a few kids in it, and it was just the most insane conversation to have with them about that. And that it was okay to be dishonest, or, I was blown away, like, wow, where did that come from? And that student didn't make it through the year. It wasn't because I kicked him out, but it was just because they just didn't fit in. Students who believe that they are lost and feel that that what they're doing is the right thing. So if we compare each one of those parables to those students that we have in our classroom, our job as a teacher is to go and seek and find them. Just like in every one of those parables where somebody went and found the thing that was lost and they celebrated it. Yeah. When a student gets something, it may not be their salvation, but when a student gets something, that's something to celebrate as a teacher. That's our payment. Or when they say, just things that like, oh, I just love you so much, or whatever. That's just like, wow, thank you. That was what I teach for. That was my paycheck. Excuse me here. Myth number three, the facilities need to be better. God does not want their success at our schools. He wants our sincerity. God does not want the students' achievements. He wants their obedience. God does not want the students' talents. He wants their commitment. God does not want their possessions. He wants their passion. God does not want their beauty. He wants their behavior. God does not want their brain. He wants their heart. God does not want their knowledge. He wants their loyalty. God does not want their ability. He wants their ambition. God does not want them for time. He wants them for eternity. God does not want them in hell. He wants them in heaven. Oops, skipped. Myth. Over 500,000 junkies in the U.S. The majority of them are young people. There are over 500,000 are in prison for serious crimes, the majority of which are young people. Over 10 million alcohol and drug addicts are in our country, the majority of whom are young people. Over 10 million gays, lesbians, and the majority of them are young people. So when a child enters the real world, that child should have what? A sense of what true value and virtues are. A sense of to choose the right and shun the wrong. A sense to make good moral judgment and eschew evil, or just rebuke it. A sense of morality, a decency, of dignity and devotion, and to duty. A deep sense of an inner conviction like Joseph had, who said, when placed in a situation that probably was very uncomfortable to him, with his mistress, his boss's wife, said, how can I do this great wickedness and sin against my God? Nobody was watching him. They need to have a sense of duty like Esther, who when faced with the loss of her people said, and she had to go before the king, unannounced, uninvited, she said, if I perish, I perish. Or of Daniel, who when in a foreign country, covered with idolatry and things that were probably vile to a Jew, said to himself and to his friends, in his heart, he said, he purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the food or with any of the things in Babylon. And there was, I'm assuming Babylon was an absolutely amazing city to see, beautiful. Of Moses, when he stood to stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Of Joshua, who said, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. I'm losing some people to sleep. Sorry, guys. And of Ruth, who said, thy God will be my God, and your people, my people. So the object of Christian education is to develop young people with deep and moral, ethical convictions so that they can function in the real world and prepare themselves for the world to come. To prepare them for eternity and beyond the real world, because the length of time we're on this earth is barely a blink. I don't know if you guys have heard that. There was this gentleman, I think he was the one that did Grandma in the Sea of Glass, but he also had this other illustration of a steel ball the size of our globe of the earth. And every 1,000, 10,000 years, this mosquito comes by, and as he comes by, he flies all the way down, and he just zip the earth with one of its wings. That's it, and then goes off. And in another 10,000 years, another one comes by and just and goes on. And when the earth will fully have been eroded away by that mosquito, then eternity will have just begun. So we're barely a zip in our lifespan, and we're training kids so that we can be for eternity, so that we can enjoy and learn forever. I don't know how that's going to happen, because our brains will be limitless in what they can receive in knowledge. True education means more than pursuing a certain course of study. True education it has to do with the whole person and with the whole period of existence possible to human beings. It is the harmonious development of the physical, the mental, and the spiritual powers. That's from True Education, verse 1, or chapter 1, the first paragraph. The last myth is that religion should be taught to youngsters in the home and in the church. And there's no question about that. Obviously, we need to be doing that. It's not always the case. Sometimes it's just at home. And in an age of, sometimes it's also just at school sometimes too. I don't know, because we don't have just Adventists in our school. We also have non-Adventists, people that have chosen that hey, this is a good place I want to send my school here because of the influence that they will get influenced upon. In an age of skepticism and philosophical idealism, in an age of humanism and narcissism, and in an age of atheism and agnosticism, what better place to help to mold the minds of your children spiritually than in a Christian school? So in conclusion, Adventist education has already helped millions of people, and it will continue to do so. Many successful business persons, professionals, blue-collar workers will quickly admit that had it not been for an Adventist education, I love those stories, they're good, a system that took them in when other public schools rejected them, or that they were not qualified to enter other schools, they would not be the story they are today if it had not been for an Adventist education, and sometimes just a teacher. So I don't know what you guys are doing for schools, but I do know our schools. There's one last thing I did want to share. Adventist schools are struggling nationwide. Our enrollment is down nationwide. And one of the things that I think is interesting is that what we do as educators is we go out and we have to find people. The last school I was at, there was 93% of the population at our school is non-Adventist. There were just not any kids in the church, none. So it wasn't that we weren't drawing them from the church, there just weren't any. In an area large like this, like Grants Pass and Medford, there are Adventist school kids that are not in our schools. And it may or may not be the best place for them where they're at. I don't know. But I do know this. Our schools are a front line. We're on the front line of the offense because we're battling with principalities of our world. I mean, social media, TV, television, all the movies, and all that stuff. We're battling against the damage that Satan is trying to cause in our children. So I challenge you, if you don't support financially, support with prayer. If you don't support with prayer, you better be supporting with prayer. And if you don't support with finance, please support with volunteering, because the schools need help. When we talked about finances, we need help with battling, being on the front line. It's a mission. It's not just a school. It's not just teaching kids ABCs, how to read, how to write, how to do math. It's teaching about God and about heaven. So you pray with me. Father in heaven, I ask that you'd be with us today, that you'd help us to seek, what you can do through us. Please open our minds and our hearts to hear what you have for us to do, and help us to have the courage to stand up and do it. In your name, amen.